This right here is 150 grams of protein. And this is actually how much I think most women should be eating in a single day. But for men, it's obviously gonna be a little bit more. But it actually gets crazier because this is only 1,350 calories. And the point I'm trying to make right now is that you're probably not eating enough protein. And even if you feel fine, your body might actually be sending some warning signals. You just might not be recognizing them. But not eating enough protein can actually cause some kind of weird changes in your body. And it actually gets worse because most people either ignore all the red flags or they just don't even realize what's happening until it's too late. So today I'm gonna be breaking down 6 major warning signs that your protein intake is far too low, why these warning signs are happening, and the absolute best ways to fix all of them. But before we get into those 6 signs, I need to show you the current state of the average American diet, because when you see these numbers, you're gonna realize that this is actually a really big issue. Now, the American Heart Association and the National Academy of Medicine recommend that an adult should consume about 0.8 grams per kilogram of body weight as the RDA for protein. So this is the minimum amount of protein that a person should consume in a day. So if someone was getting anything less than this, they'd be getting insufficient amounts. Also, most experts are gonna recommend about 1.2 to 1.6 grams per kilogram of body weight for optimal health and also muscle maintenance. But what does this really mean though? Well, a real life example of this would be that a 180-pound man eating about 2,700 calories per day should have about 67 grams of protein minimum, which is gonna be about 10% of their total calories based on the RDA. And then between 98 and 130 grams of protein, which is gonna be about 14.5 to 19% of total calories for general health and then also maintenance. Now, a woman who weighs 150 pounds while eating about 2,000 calories per day should have about 55 grams of protein minimum, which is gonna be about 11% of total calories based on the RDA. And then between 82 and 109 grams of protein, so between 16 and 22% of calories for general health and then also maintenance. So like I was saying before, I think all of this needs to be modified. In fact, my personal preference is to increase protein to about 30 to 35%. So basically double what the average person is currently doing, or to basically triple the RDA. But if you're not getting enough protein, especially from animal-based sources, since plant-based proteins are objectively inferior, chances are extremely high that you'll be experiencing one or even all of these 6 issues. Now, first, if you're constantly battling hunger or really intense cravings, especially for sweets and junk food, your protein intake might be a little bit too low. And this is especially true if you're the type of person who eats a meal and then gets ravenously hungry like an hour later. So why does this happen though? Well, protein is the most satiating macronutrient. It slows digestion, it stabilizes blood sugar, and it keeps your hunger hormones, particularly leptin and ghrelin, in check. And without enough protein, you're gonna keep getting signals that are gonna drive you to wanna eat more. Now, if you wanna fix this is gonna sound kind of silly, but first, you just need to eat high quality protein like these right here every single meal. And this is obviously because it's the most satiating macronutrient, just like I mentioned. But these types of protein are also extremely nutrient dense, and oftentimes cravings are linked to micronutrient deficiencies and insufficiencies. Additionally, a really good thing to do is to start your meal by eating your protein first. Because if you think about it, if you just dive into your fruit or carbs and fill up kind of quickly and then barely touch your protein, you might find yourself being hungry again like an hour later or so. But when you lead with protein, you're basically ensuring that you're getting the most satiating muscle supporting part of the meal first. And this is gonna help keep you fuller for way longer. And this is gonna prevent those annoying cravings from popping back up shortly after. Now, hunger and cravings are pretty frustrating, but they're just kind of a small piece of the puzzle. And if your hormones are out of balance, it's not just gonna be your appetite that suffers. you're gonna feel it with your energy, your mood, and even how your body stores fat. So your hormones control everything from your metabolism to energy levels to hunger and muscle growth, and protein is essential for keeping all of that in balance. And inadequate consumption of high quality animal-based proteins can create an environment of, we'll just say, kind of hormonal chaos. So protein provides the building blocks for hormones, enzymes, and then also neurotransmitters. And when your intake is too low, or if you're not getting enough, this can actually lead to low thyroid hormones, which can slow down your metabolism and also contribute to low energy. It can also cause low testosterone and estrogen imbalances, which can contribute to muscle loss, mood swings, and even PMS symptoms. It can contribute to high cortisol, which is gonna contribute to increased belly fat, poor sleep, and anxiety. And then there's also leptin and ghrelin dysregulation. So like we previously mentioned, which can cause constant hunger and also cravings. Now, I don't know if you know this, but all four of those things are huge issues that a pretty big percentage of the population are currently facing. But simply put, if you're not eating enough protein, your hormones are gonna be impaired and your body just isn't really gonna function optimally. Now, hormones operate on a circadian rhythm, meaning that they kind of just cyclically ebb and flow with our 24-hour biological clock. So they need to remain balanced and optimized throughout the day. And this is why eating 3 meals with bioavailable protein at consistent times is critical to supporting your hormones. For example, skipping breakfast keeps your cortisol, your stress hormone, elevated for too long, especially when paired with black coffee, which can lead to disrupted stress responses throughout the day. Now, over time though, this can actually contribute to chronically elevated levels of cortisol, poor metabolism, and difficulty managing stress. And this is exactly why I stopped intermittent fasting and also drinking black coffee. Also, when you're eating at inconsistent times, but especially late at night, it can actually impair melatonin function, which can negatively affect your sleep and create even more hormonal chaos. So if your hormones are out of balance, your metabolism is gonna slow down, your energy is gonna crash, and your body is just really gonna struggle to function properly. But one of the most serious consequences of impaired hormone function is actually losing muscle. And this happens way faster than most people realize, especially if you're not eating enough protein. Now, sarcopenia or severe muscle wasting is a huge concern as we get older, and we're all kind of very likely going to get to the point where getting up and down from the toilet seat is going to be pretty challenging, but delaying the inevitable seems like a pretty smart idea. Now, protein can definitely help with this though. Not only that, but if you're trying to lose weight and you're not getting adequate amounts of protein, you're gonna very likely experience some type of muscle loss. Even in this study right here, they found that when women consumed 1.8 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight, which is about 25% of their total calories, and then also performed either fasted or non-fasted cardio for weight loss, they still lost muscle. In fact, the fasted group lost 1.1 pounds of muscle, while the non-fasted group lost 0.4 pounds, which is obviously a little bit better, but they still both lost muscle even when their protein consumption was at 25% of their total nutrition. And then we even have Ozempic users, which are now showing us that about 40% of their total weight loss is coming from lean body mass, which is very concerning. Now, this is all gonna happen because your muscles are obviously made of protein, and if you don't eat enough of it, especially when trying to lose weight, your body's gonna break down your muscle tissue, and this response is actually gonna be intensified if you're not resistance training or lifting weights. So this is exactly why everyone absolutely needs to consider body fat percentage along with weight, just to ensure that they're maintaining their current muscle mass. Now, I haven't actually talked about exactly how much protein you should be consuming, but I generally recommend finding your ideal weight based on your height and then multiplying that number by 1.12. But if you don't want to do that calculation, I actually have a free macronutrient calculator that'll give you your exact protein consumption targets based on your height. On top of that, you'll be subscribed to my newsletter with about 8,000 subscribers, where I give really detailed fat loss advice just like you're seeing now. Also, I actually prioritize my newsletter over all forms of other content. So if you're not signed up, you're very likely missing out on a ton of really incredible helpful information. Okay, so losing muscle is bad enough, but what if I told you that not eating enough protein doesn't just weaken your muscles, it can actually weaken your entire digestive system. So your gut relies on protein just as much as your biceps do, and if you're not getting enough, you could be dealing with bloating, sluggish digestion, and even nutrient deficiencies without even realizing it. Now, if you've been suffering from weird digestive issues or you feel like your digestion's been off, there's a good chance you're either not getting enough protein or your amino acid consumption is unbalanced. Now, protein isn't just essential for tissue repair in your muscles, but it's also critical for tissue repair in your gut. And without enough of the right kinds, your body can't really rebuild or repair itself, or it's just not gonna produce the enzymes to properly digest your food. And since the integrity of your intestinal lining relies on amino acids to protect and rebuild itself, a lack of protein can actually weaken your gut lining and also contribute to leaky gut. Now, there is something that you're very likely missing, because most people actually really are. You're very likely under-consuming collagen-based proteins, which happen to account for about 30% of the total protein content in every single animal that we eat, which is oddly important. And I'm gonna talk about this in a minute. But these really unique proteins actually kind of need to be heavily relied upon just to reduce inflammation in your digestive system, which will help improve digestion. And they can even help your body improve nutrient absorption as well. In fact, collagen-based proteins are so important. Here's what someone in my private community said about her digestive issues after she started drinking bone broth.
So I started doing that, and I did it first thing in the morning, and then like 1 cup before each meal. And I'm not kidding you, within 48 hours, my problems were on the way to being 90% healed. That has been a game changer for me. I used to have this really badly swollen stomach. This morning I woke up, my stomach is flat.
So don't just try to prioritize muscle meats. There's a wide range of proteins that can support your collagen-based protein consumption. So things like ground meats are going to be better sources of collagen-based proteins, but you should also introduce bone broths and beef gelatin or collagen into your nutrition as well. But how much of these proteins should we be trying to consume in a day? Well, before we go over that, we kind of actually need to talk about your hair, your skin, and your nails. So if you have dry skin, if you have brittle nails, or even thinning hair, this is going to be a pretty big indicator of inadequate protein consumption. And the reason for this is because your hair, your skin, and your nails are actually made of proteins called keratin and then also collagen. Now, your body is also going to prioritize essential functions, something like organ function, over things like hair growth and skin health. So more nutrients are always going to be supplied to the more important tissues. But what I didn't mention in the last section is that though a typical animal consists of about 30% collagen-based proteins, muscle meat only contains about 2 to 3% collagen-based proteins. And with most people consuming mostly muscle meats, it's pretty safe to say that we're significantly under consuming collagen-based proteins. So if you're noticing any issues with your skin, nails, or hair, try increasing your intake of collagen-based proteins like bone broth, gelatin, and then even collagen as well. Now, when it comes to how much collagen-based protein you should be trying to eat in a single day, well, try to aim for about 20% of your protein to come from these very special collagen-based proteins. So this right here is about 2¼ cups of bone broth, and then there's also about a tablespoon of gelatin right here. And that's gonna be a pretty good amount and adequate enough for most people. Now, if you're currently seeing issues with your nails, hair, or skin, that's obviously not great, but it can actually get worse because if you're not eating enough protein in general, it could even affect your immune system, which can make you more vulnerable to getting sick and really slow down your recovery process. So if you're the type of person who's regularly getting sick or it takes forever to fight that illness, you might want to consider looking into your protein intake. And this tends to happen because protein is needed to produce antibodies and then also immune cells. Also, one of the biggest upsides of animal-based proteins is that they're incredibly nutrient dense and they contain a wide range of vitamins and minerals that support your metabolism. And a healthy metabolism is gonna support a healthy body. So just keep in mind that collagen-based proteins, I know I'm kind of beating a dead horse with this one, but they can reduce inflammation in your gut, and they also support glutathione production, which is one of the most potent antioxidants in your body. So if you wanna avoid mitochondrial dysfunction and an impaired metabolism, upping your protein from high quality sources is gonna be really, really important. So to better support your immune system, focus on things like meats, eggs, raw dairy, and then organ meat as well. And remember, increase your collagen-based protein consumption too. So protein isn't just about building muscle, it's essential for hormone balance, metabolism, recovery, and overall health. So increase your protein from animal-based sources and check out my macronutrient calculator in the description down below. And if you feel like you're struggling with any kind of inflammation at all, watch this video right here where I'll show you 9 of the best foods to fight inflammation.